everybody, and welcome to Telialigaen week number 3 for the major broadcast. My name is Vast in the Past, and joined alongside me, as every other week, here is the lovely Hyferian. Hype, we're doing pretty well so far here in this league. We are currently 1-1, taking a win in our first week and a tie last week against, well, one of the biggest dogs in this league. So we're feeling pretty hot, doing pretty well, but we've got one more battle here today against Fact Revolution. I'm excited to see this one. How are you doing on this fine evening, my friend?
No, I'm doing absolutely lovely. And then with that 1-1 score, that might not be the best, but we are currently second in the league. So Major is doing incredibly well. And we just really hope that they can keep that going. Of course, against Fact Revolution today, I'm doing amazing today. Obviously, RLCS announcement, which these players will be incredibly excited for as well. But Fact Revolution is a tricky one. They're a phenomenal team. They have got one of the oldest SSLs in the entire game. Banjo carries either 35 or 36, I'm pretty sure. I'm already struggling to reach GT2 at this point. But that being said, a Fact Revolution is kind of a must-win here today.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a must-win just because of the fact that, A, we want to keep the momentum in our favor, but B, Fact Revolution is just on paper not a team that we should be losing to. Fact Revolution at the moment is currently 0-1, meaning they've taken a tie and a loss. They lost to the Razzle Dazzlers, and they took a tie with Must Do Fluck. So a tie with Must Do Fluck is a pretty good thing. Again, Must Do has been a rather threatening team, to put it simply, here in the league. They've had 2 ties in a row. They have yet to lose or to win, but the 2 ties that they actually have had have been against pretty impressive teams. Obviously, we say Fact Revolution, and then Rotarion is their other team. So, Mustu is not a bad team to tie against. That being said, the fact that they do have a loss here already doesn't start the season off well for Fact Revolution, and we've got to capitalize upon this. As much as we want to take some pity, on the team that hasn't been able to get a win here today, Hyferia, unfortunately, we have no time to shed any tears. It is time for us to continue our domination, keep on trucking through this league, because Telialigaen, again, is not that long of a season. It's only about, I believe, 9 weeks in total, so taking a loss here early within the first third definitely is not going to help us in our momentum.
Absolutely not. And a massively important thing is as well the game ratio. You just need to be trying to sweep every single time that you even remotely have the opportunity to do so. And today is one of those opportunities. Fact Revolution, in theory, could and thus should be a sweep. Fact Revolution, they're a strong team, but Major is shooting for that top 2 spot. And then every single game matters. Well, I think everything that we do this season, or everything that Major does this season, is kind of shaping up and coming all together for that final week against AW3, where you want every single piece of help that they can get, because they have re-signed their entire team as well. And that makes it very difficult to go up against them. But let's delve a little bit deeper into this matchup, going over Fact Revolution real quick. It is Banjo, Sacred, and Super. They have been playing in Telialigaen Division 1 for a relatively long amount of time. At least last season they were, and I'm pretty sure they also did a previous season. So they're well-versed, but they're always near the lower end.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that it's great to be able to come back into the league every single time, and they are a consistent face here in the league, but the unfortunate truth is they're kind of struggling. There's a lot of new talent here in the scene. There's a lot of talent that has kind of been on the upswing, to put it simply, and unfortunately there's somewhat struggling against that. This new Must-Do Fluck roster, like we said, they did not take a win against them. They tied with them, and then they lost to the Razzle Dazzlers, which is not a bad team in any way, shape, or form, but it is one of these things where if you've been in the league for this long, you have to be pretty prepared for a lot of the punches that are thrown at you. And if you can't really dodge them, well, unfortunately, you're going to take some losses here and there. You can take some ties here and there that you're not really expecting. And that's kind of what happened to Fact Revolution to start off this season. They have not necessarily had the hottest start. Meanwhile, we've done extremely well at the fact that we are currently 1-1-0. But I really do think that this is going to be a close contest here today. Fact Revolution are not a team to underestimate, so if we do try and play a little bit haphazardly here, we might run into some issues. So let's hope that we hit the ground running here in game number 1, Hyferia.
And let's hope we do not run into any of those issues here. Major versus Fact Revolution. It is going to be a battle, but Major surely is the favorite, and they're going to be battling against it right now. Kickoff is happening, and Magma and Super kick us off, and it's already Maz trying to go down the other way. But Super staying close. Lucky. It's a good, decent 50, but Magma can't quite reach it, and thus loses control of the ball. Sacred booms it towards the other side, but that's a bit of a giveaway into the hands of Mads, who then gets demoed by Super. That's a good play by Super. Smart heads-up play, but now Lucky going down the other end. Zero boost in the tank for Sacred, but he still gets there in time.
So far, a little bit of a tentative back and forth here. Nothing too explosive, but that's not necessarily that surprising. You kind of expect this to be a little bit of a feeling out period. In a best of 6, which we play in, there's always a chance at a tie, so both teams are going to try and take as much time as possible, knowing that there's always a good chance at recovery. That being said, we don't want to concede early here. Factor Evolution starting to press the issue as they pull onto our half, but are only there momentarily, immediately sent the other way, and looks like so far, Major playing this one very safe and very controlled.
They're getting off to a slower start, or at least playing this controlled, as you said, and I can very much understand, because Major, they have the capability to grow into a series, so for them, it's really important to start it off strong, or at least not to concede at the start. And then they'll grow into it eventually. You can get everything going, get everything locked down. But right now, they're just playing a little bit more defensive just to see what Factor Evolution can bring at them. And right now, Factor Evolution, I must say, they are in the opposing half, or at least in the Major half, a threatening amount of time. Now, Sacred isn't going to have enough aerial momentum for that, so he does decide to back down, but he still gets it to the backboard. And we do see a few mistakes out of Major happening here.
Couple of mistakes, but luckily enough, we don't get faked out by the lack of a touch on the line and are able to sustain this pressure for now. But we're still not able to get out of our own half. So far here, it has been a rather tentative start for Major. They need to play a little bit more aggressive. This team, when they get in the face of their opponents like this, can do wondrous things. No such luck there. Lucky, unfortunately, just barely denied on the line, but I like the little bit of give and go from Major there. That was a much more aggressive playstyle, and it definitely helped us out on offense.
And a boomer flick as well. The amount of power generated was absolutely ridiculous. And now that's a beautiful pass as well. Magma can't quite get it on target. Lucky is up for it though, but he also misses his shot. Mads now lonely back in the defense, and will very much manage with a simple 50-50. Sacred is now the next opponent. He goes through it as well. Super, last man back. He's gone through 2 already, goes through 3, but then the third one, or the first one, is already back. And you have to outplay him once again. And now you can't be taking 50s like that in front of the net. Oh my word, that is scary.
I'm not going to say that Major look asleep right now, but they definitely don't seem to be matching the pace of play of their opponents. It very much seems like Factor Evolution are trying to straight up outpace them, and it's working out for the most part. But they've definitely spent a majority of this game in our half and have just kept this pressure up. So far, Major has been pretty prepared for most of the attacks, and the inevitable shots that come afterwards have been easily blocked. Speaking of which, Banjo denied on the line, but I do kind of worry right now. Major look like they need to play a little bit quicker here. If they continue to just kind of give these lackluster offenses where it's one and done, we take a shot and then immediately retreat into our own half, I don't think it's really going to work out. And speaking of which, shot on target, but Magma not going to be able to do much with it. And as Lucky does try to get the 50, it is a short-lived stay as Super goes the other way. The flip reset will not pay off, but Hyferia, that's only further emphasizing my point. If Major want a chance to get a threatening offense, they need to spend much more time in their opponent's half.
And especially since what we said at the start, even dropping one game can be crucial to that top 2 spot. Dropping the game here against Factor Evolution, and at this point, it really could only take 1 goal. Super going through 1. And Mads will shut that down into the hands of Magma. And lets it be, and then goes for an aerial play. Doesn't have to boost for it though. It's seemingly the case, but Sacred still with the aerial 50 shuts it down as it lands center once again into the box. Super punches it away, but that is not really a controlling punch. Super does get the ball back into his car. Magma outpaces the opponent, looking out maybe with a shot, but that is slightly wide.
Slightly wide here, but this one's not going to be. Mads with the first goal of this game. 4.5 minutes in, and finally we see an opportunity. This was a perfect demo out of Lucky.
Now that was absolutely amazing. Missing the shot and then instantly going for the demo afterwards. It's a smart play, quick realization as well, but now 40 seconds in Factor Evolution. They have not been docile in their own half. They have been trying to go to the other end every single time. Super now up for it, but that touch won't really do much except for giving it away to Major. And Mads, it's also not the greatest touch out of him. Sacred can get underneath it. This lands center into the box. Banjo Carry has a shot, but Lucky has an easy clear away. Magma pops it up in front of the box in these final 14 seconds. They can not concede.
We Cannot, but the good thing is they're spending a lot of time on their opponent's half, and they're pressing the issue. This one, is this going to go in? No, not quite. Thought Magma's lackluster shot was going to be enough, but it is at least enough to secure us game number 1. Little bit of an odd way to conclude that one, but I will say this, Major still do not necessarily look up to pace of play as their usual play style. I think part of this is the fact that Factor Evolution are playing a little bit aggressively, so they're trying to take advantage of that, but at the same time, it does sort of go to show you that Major, despite, in my opinion, not spending a majority of that game in their opponent's half, had way more shots than their opponents. 8 total shots, so it was kind of take a shot, run back, take a shot, run back. And I don't think that's really that big of an issue, to be honest, right now. It's pretty impressive what we're seeing out of this Major team, but I'm just a little bit concerned if time goes on and Factor Evolution starts to find a little bit more success in their overwhelming offensive presence, then I think we're going to start having some issues.
I've seen this kind of game before where it's seemingly incredibly close, but one side doesn't really get the shots off that you expect them to have. And well, the usual way that it goes is the team that played a little bit more comfortable, get more attacking opportunities, will take control and will actually start scoring more and more. So from this point on, Factor Evolution, they're going to have to prove my theory incredibly wrong. As a Sacred gets it into the hands of Magma, but once again, in fact, Revolution seemingly not being able to place a shot on target as of right now.
Not quite yet, but we're only 15 seconds into game number 2. And again, this is a best-of-6 series, so there is a chance at a tie. So for Factor Evolution, they're never really going to be out of this series, or at least we hope not. We hope to see a good back and forth here, but they need to still get a goal on the board. So far, they've been shut out in game number 1, and in game number 2, they're already getting scored upon as well. Upper 90, perfect placement, and lucky strikes.
Top bins, what a phenomenal shot. Sacred was in the net. Sacred was absolutely chanceless against that shot. An exquisite shot coming through from Lucky, and now that is a Major up 1 goal within 30 seconds. Last time it took them 4-minute 30. Now they've done it at the 4th minute 30 mark. And they can't concede as of right now, or at least not directly afterwards. That would be a bummer and a half. Lucky trying to prevent that and maybe even tack another one on. Mads into the center. Magma's up for it as well. Meets Sacred in the skies. And Super misses the ball altogether. Banjo is there to pick it back up. And Super, what can he do with this ball? He has shown some aerial prominence. Flipper set. Or was that a flipper set? I'm not too sure whether he even got one.
I don't necessarily think it worked out, but unfortunately, the bigger issue right now for Factor Evolution is they still don't even have a shot on the board yet. We're a minute into this game, and they're finally starting to get some offensive pressure, but not really much of an actual offense altogether. Oh, I might have spoke too soon. Super with time and space in the air. They can't do anything with it, though. And again, a shot not registered. Well, this one registered. No, it's actually off target, so Banjo not going to get it either. And at this point, it's just a lot of time spent in our half, but no real shots. This was the issue in game number 1 for Factor Evolution, but finally they do get a shot, and it's a banger of one at that.
That is a boomer and a half. Banjo snipes the angle as well, and well, I guess Lucky can put on a good shot, so can Banjo. But the problem I was having with Factor Revolution in that attack was mainly that they went for the attack, but nobody was there for the shot. So one player would whip it up in the center, and then both others would be completely back and already preparing for another attack coming their way, instead of one of them being up there to take the shot. Now Mads has to be careful because Factor Revolution, they've just tasted blood and they're coming to get more.
They're trying their best to keep this offensive pressure up. It's a good strategy for the team now that they're starting to find a little bit more success in their offense, but we're not even halfway through this game, and now that Major are broken out of their own half, let's see what they can do. Mads is trying to just keep this one in the half because all of a sudden you get a double commit on the ceiling. But really, that's just going to leave Factor Evolution vulnerable, or at least I thought. Somehow they are able to get a cross-court shot. It's a very short-lived offense, but Factor Evolution not seemingly backing down whatsoever here. They're still going to play aggressive even in their own half.
And that's what I like. I like the aggression coming through, and Factor Revolution, they very much seemingly pick up the pace and prove my theory wrong already, even though there is, yes, there's still plenty of time left in this game. But they're already being more offensive. They are getting into the attack and bringing the game towards Major, and that's exactly what they need to do. They can't respect Major too much. Even though it might be necessary, they need to put themselves into positions where they aggressively challenge. Oh, there's such a super right here. Mads on the double commit as well. This might get tricky. Might get a little bit awkward, and Super, he fixes that problem right away from Major with a mistouch.
Right away, and now let's see if Major can try and get something together here. Magma just kind of lays that one to no one, though, unfortunately, and this is kind of what I'm starting to see on repeat right now, Hyferia. As much as Major are finding success in offense, it feels like they're all just going for solo plays on repeat. Not a lot of foresight in the way that they are playing, but the minute I say that, and the caster curse will show itself, if I want to be critical of them, I guess I got to do it when they're not making great plays.
It's a great shot by Lucky. The way that it ended up in his hands was Magma being in a impeccable position and getting the ball hit right onto him. They can't really bank on that the entire time. Mads now with a pass to the center. Lucky was there as well, and that tiny miscommunication opened up a alleyway for Factor Evolution that they shut themselves. They throw cement in it and give it away to Major. I'm not too sure, but there's a Major flag in that alleyway right now.
You gotta love the puns from you, Hyferia, but I can tell you where that Major flag is. It's the aggression. We mentioned it earlier. It was nice out of them while it lasted, but the big issue with that is that when you play that aggressive, eventually you can leave yourself a little bit exposed, and that's kind of what happened there. The impatience of Factor Evolution finally caught up to them as they left their entire back half open, and now they've got to play from 2 behind, and with only about a minute remaining, things are looking bleak, especially considering shots are still raining up against their backboard there. Just a little bit off target, but it does not seem like Major are backing down. They not only want the win, they want to go for the throat as well. 1 minute remaining, and they are still pressing the issue. Maybe they can't press for that long. Finally pushed into their own half, and let's see, can Factor Evolution cut this lead in half and maybe at least force an overtime? Ooh, not if they make misses on the back end, though.
Well, the funny thing about this game is, well, it might be this. Mads almost own goaling, or at least spiking it down a little bit. But the funny thing is that Factor Evolution do a better job at setting up the attack. It's just the end phase, the shooting, that's not really there. On the other end, Major, their setups aren't really that great, but the shooting is phenomenal and makes up for it directly. If they learn a little bit off of each other, they would have an absolutely exquisite playstyle, but right now, Factor Evolution, they're going to have to take the learnings from this game because they are not going to get a victory anymore. It will be Major up 2-0 against Factor Evolution.
And that's a big 2-0 because, again, like we mentioned, getting at least 3 secures the tie minimum, something that is huge in this league just to make sure that you keep some games in your favor. That being said, I don't think they're going to settle for the tie. Factor Evolution, unfortunately, we're about to give up, I believe, a 4th goal in that game. Just barely hits the ground, but no matter what, the results are the same. Major take the win here, and I'm getting a little bit scared for Factor Evolution here. It seems like the success they found in Game 1 from their aggression has led to an aggressive Game 2, but just not the same sort of level of success. So they've got to be careful here. They need to play a little bit more defensively. In Game number 1, they had the overwhelming amount of saves in that game at, I believe, 8. This game, though, tied up 2 apiece, so it really does go to show you that despite overwhelming offense in favor of Major, there's also just not as much defense on the side of Factor Evolution.
The defense from Factor Evolution does very easily fall apart, but that could always lead or derive from a failed attack where they're pushed up too much, because they usually go in clumps of 2. That is that Factor Evolution move about the board. That's not really the way to go, because you get caught in the same exact position and you somehow have to read your teammate's mind whether he's going for it or not, and that is really incredibly difficult. People have tried. I don't think that anyone has really been successful, or at least not that we can prove. I can't mind read.
Yeah, I don't think that we're going to see any necessarily 5-headed plays here today of mind reading or predictions like that. I appreciate the ambitions here, Hyferia, but it may take a little bit more than that for this team to try and win. I think Factor Evolution don't necessarily need psychic powers. They just need to play a little bit cleaner of a defense and try and play a little bit less aggressively. I know we've been complimentary of their defense, but I think at a certain point they need to find a middle ground that'll be more suitable.
The middle ground is always where you want to be at. You don't want to play over aggressive, you don't want to play over defensive, but that is a lot easier said than done. Let's see how Factor Evolution try and get themselves back into this series, because they have not got a lot of time to do so. And that touch out of Banjo, yikes. It is a very tough one, but he has to leave that for his team, because this clear just won't cut it.
This is just not great in a multitude of different ways. The fact of the matter is, Banjo only went for that because Sacred was almost nowhere to be found on defense there. Yes, they were a little bit better of an angle on the way back, but they were scrambling to get back at that. And again, it's that defensive priority that we just aren't seeing out of Factor Evolution right now. They seem like they keep trying to catch up on the aggression here, keep trying to catch up on the offensive play, and every time that they do that, they just leave themselves more exposed. So 30 seconds into this game here, so far, it's been all in favor of Major, but I don't think that's necessarily going to continue. It does seem like Factor Evolution are keen on finding a goal and keeping themselves in the series, and could it be right here? No, just barely off target. Mads reads the drop-off off the backboard as well and gets it a little bit more safety, but Factor Evolution starting to get that offensive pressure together. Can they find an equalizer and possibly get themselves back into this series?
I suppose like that, Super perfectly whips it into the box of a Major. But there's literally nobody there right now. Super also once again off the line. Sacred attempting to go down the other end. But Mads at 50 to him. He's a good alleyway for Banjo. And Super. And get another touch on it. He does indeed. But Mads also gets the tiny touch. Allows Magma to go for a shot from distance. Banjo easily gets in the way. Now the counter-attack once again is on for Factor Evolution. Banjo, I think, got past one. Indeed, he did. But Mads will stand very valiantly on the goal line. Perfect pass down from Super into Sacred. But the shot is lacking.
Isn't seemingly that final punch out of Factor Evolution right now. This is something we saw a lot in game number 2 as well, where they got this offensive pressure, but when it came time for a real shot, they just couldn't find it. And part of that is the fact that Major are starting to read their plays on the defense as well. They're just kind of getting in the way of a lot of these shots and not even allowing a real offense to blossom. But with about 3 minutes left here in this game, there is plenty of time for Factor Evolution to find themselves a little bit more of an offense. That being said, they do need to not concede another goal. Going down by 2 would be detrimental for this team. Luckily enough, though, they have broken out of their half, but it may only be momentarily. Here comes Major one more time, and Lucky out of midfield. Nice little fake. It's time to dribble. Flicks it over one. Tried to get it to Magma, but no such luck. And again, there's the real difference there. Major may not have actually gotten a shot on target, but I can guarantee you one thing. For the couple of seconds they were in the half, they would look threatening and looked as if they could score at any moment.
Ooh, that is not a great mistake to be making, though. Magma makes up for it with a awkward double tap of the backboard, still using a lot of boost. So this is still Factor Evolution's attack, and he goes low with it. Sacred scores the equalizer, and it's just a good attack and a good opportunity directly seized by Factor Evolution.
There we go. They finally get a solid shot on target there. Unfortunately, a little bit of awkwardness for Major on the back end there. But hey, you know what? You'll take a goal no matter which way you can find it. And for Factor Evolution, who have really struggled to find favor here in this game, they're going to be pretty happy with that goal. Uh-oh, but they might not be happy with the follow-up. Magma's definitely not going to be happy with the follow-up. An open net off a defensive error, and unfortunately, Major can't quite capitalize. But now here they come, aggressive as ever, and no way this goes in! Oh no, it does not, again off target, but Major seemed to be a little bit angry and a little aggressive after that last goal they conceded.
And rightly so. You do want to get that goal on the board, of course, because otherwise you're going into an overtime. Overtimes are never fun, no matter what position you're in. Lucky taking it past one, but Sacred is in such a commanding position. Yes, Lucky is near to the ball, but he did have 0 boost, and Sacred at 100. There's something I do want to mention, though, is that open net from Magma. What we see is obviously an open net. We see a very simple defensive miss, but what Magma sees is a player flying towards it, and he anticipates for the 50. He doesn't expect to be able to shoot, and well, Maz might make up for all of it here as he attempts to go underneath, but it's still a threatening attack by Major.
Yeah, that's the big thing here is that those open nets aren't really as open as you might think. You're still trying to slot it past all the last defenders. Lucky on that one. I'm not really sure if I can give him much of an excuse on trying to slot it past the defenders. That was a pretty simple shot for our friend, but luckily enough, they can get the follow-up, and 2-1 it becomes.
Once again, Major do take the lead and looking to make quick work of Factor Evolution. The differences have been very minimal, haven't they? It's really not been a comfortable series here, or a comfortable game for Major. They really have to fight for it. And, well, Factor Evolution, hats off to them. They might be in 8th place right now, but they are giving Major a run for their money.
The big thing is that we're starting to see that defensive prowess again here. They're not necessarily also backing down from shots either. They have 6 shots and 6 saves apiece. Let's make it 7, and isn't it a wonderful 7 at that? Again, we're cheering for Major here, but you got to appreciate a good shot when you see it.
This is exactly what I expect from Banjo. I don't have great mechanics, and I account that to old. I don't know what Banjo thinks about that, of course, but usually you see these really young people have amazing mechanics, but the older and more experienced generation has just really good shots, great positioning, and more the groundwork instead of the flashy mechanics. And Banjo's really been showing that here today. Just solid shots, making his way through every single time. Now it's time for Super to do something as well. Mads needs to make a touch because Banjo is there, and you know Banjo's going to hit that, but he missed. And now it is Major's turn.
15 seconds left. This is going to most likely be the last offense. And is it going to go to Factor Evolution? It indeed is, but the shot is not going to go into the back of the net. Sacred just a little bit off target with that one. Uh-oh, but Lucky with a miss in the corner. This one will stay up, but not for long. 2-2 overtime we go here, and in game number 3, this is an important one for Major. It's a chance to at least secure the tie. For Factor Evolution, it's a chance to, oh my word, avoid the sweep that is almost inevitable at this point, as they really have been playing from behind the whole time. But if they take a win here in overtime, they will no longer be the underdogs here. They will, oh no, I was going to say, finally have some momentum in their favor. But what else besides an open net here? The defense breaks down at the wrong moment, and Major capitalize.
And well, what I said about Banjo being in a great positioning, having great shooting. The great shooting still stands, but there he did leave his post. Probably not seeing Mads sneak up for that shot, hiding behind the ball. It's great positioning by Mads, and incredibly hard to counter as well, because you have to notice everything within a split second. You have to see his car, you have to see his position, you have to see everything perfectly, and well, sometimes that can go wrong. Banjo suffered the consequences, and with that, the entirety of Factor Revolution suffered the consequences. Because yes, sure, Major, they have now locked up at least the tie, but I don't think anyone of Major is going at it with that attitude. They want the 4-0. They want this to be done and over with.
Yeah, I think that they're looking to try and sweep this one clean here. And again, I really do feel like that is almost inevitable at this point. Factor Evolution just feel like they're playing from behind the whole time. While they're keeping this one close, it doesn't ever feel like they are, I would say, in favor here. It doesn't ever seem like they are most likely going to, oh my word, take the win. Sacred can hit some nice flip resets they might be able to. And there we go, the first lead for Factor Evolution. 10 seconds into game number 4, and maybe finally this team has woken up.
And this is a little bit outrageous from Lucky there to go to try and attempt a flip reset underneath right at the edge of your box. Yes, it might be in the air, but you need to keep a car between the ball and the goal. That way you can't go through. And now Lucky once again is fumbling about in the net, and it will cause Sacred to break through. And Factor Revolution, yes, they're down 3-0, but in this game they're up 2-0.
I'm just confused what we're seeing right now, to be honest. This just doesn't look like an organized defense here, and maybe it's because we haven't necessarily been pressed on defense all too often, but Major starting off this game in a very odd way, and now they put themselves in a rather precarious position. They've got to try and fight from 2-0, and again, the inaccuracy issues continue to plague us. Another one off the bar, and at this point, when we're down 2-0, Hyferia, we cannot afford to be having misses like that.
Absolutely not. Yes, it's only 30 seconds in. There's plenty of time, you'd say, but you don't want to really break it down to the final minute, as Magma might just demonstrate right here. Super actually whips it up for Lucky. Let's see whether he can redeem himself. Still has a little bit of boost left. Goes for the 50 this time. Sacred nicely stays in the way of the ball and the net. Mads still breaking through, though. Banjo with a good block on it. Magma also up into the sky. Super is on the goal line and needing to avoid Mads from the bump. Banjo directly on the other end, attempting to get a third one in the back of the net, but shut down in the corner.
Not quite able to do much on offense right now. Major look a little bit lackluster when it comes to their final third, and I think a lot of that has to do with panic. You noticed how Matt just kind of posted up in the net and tried to bump Super out of the way, and I really do want to emphasize that the panic is starting to set in, because Lucky, this touch is just not wise in any way, shape, or form. Tries to keep it close to them, but considering Sacred is right there, you do not want to have it dilly-dally in your own half, and 3-0 it becomes. Hyferia, this is not the best game for Major right now. Their defense does not look that great.
Absolutely not, and it seemed to be a moment of hesitation in Lucky, where he thought, I want to go for a boomer clear out. Oh no, I want to keep it close. Oh no, I just given it away. And this time it was Sacred missing the shot, but that was a phenomenal opportunity. Banjo has another one. Two players jump at it, but both of them miss it once again. But this time it was one from Fat Revolution and one from Major. And what is going on? How did Magma just get a goal out of absolutely nowhere?
I thought this was an own goal, to be honest. Banjo was just the weirdest pinch. I don't think he could have replicated that had he tried. That's a pretty weird pinch to try and finesse, and it somehow almost hit the back of the net directly. Luckily enough, Magma was there to capitalize, and, you know, hey, defensive errors for defensive errors here. It really does feel like the two teams are just kind of waiting for that opportunity, and once they see a little bit of vulnerability in the back end, they just strike.
And now this could be the opening for Major as well. Fat Revolution or rather Banjo carry got an incredibly unfortunate pinch. I'm sure he didn't want it to go that way, or at least not that with that much power. But they have given a Major an opportunity. Mads now attempting to read this preemptively. Two players commit, but now Mads has a completely open net. No boost though to try and convert, and he does decide to take it out to the side. Pass to the center. Good block out of Banjo. I'm pretty sure he was on the backboard. Magma gets a second touch. Sacred still able to shut it down. Lucky into the skies, but with 36 boost, he's going to have to pass that one off. Attempts to do so, but Banjo beats Mads by a massive amount. Good reactive play out of Mads, though, to go for the block.
We're having a little bit of success here right now, but it still kind of feels like Major aren't quite back in form here. I think a lot of this is the fact that they're still kind of panicked. We mentioned, again, that little bit of an open net we saw on the other end there, and while it wasn't completely open, you at least want to put a shot somewhat on target, not try and take it into the corner and give time for the other team to set up. And I feel like that's a lot of what we're seeing right now for Major. It's just not a lot of foresight in what they're doing. It's just weird touches that don't really lead to much, and a lot of weird plays that don't really go anywhere. So I think they need to be a little bit more methodical right now. They need to try and get into offense and have an actual play in mind. Get some nice passing plays. Get some, oh my word, nice offensive pressure together, because they're just not doing that. They still seem panicked. Double commits on the wall there is just only going to further put them behind. And then Mads pre-jumps this one well before Super is even up. It just feels like there's not a lot of reason or foresight to what's happening. And as a result, we are panicking the whole time we're on defense. 4-1 here. And it looks like Factor Evolution will indeed find their first win.
It does very much look so indeed, but it's a very deserved one. Major just started slacking, and what I said of that, Major definitely won't have the mindset of, oh, we've got the tile locked up, let's take it a little bit easy. They want the sweep here. They are quieting down. They are backing off a little bit more and just having awkward plays and flags into the mix. And I don't know where it's coming from, but it does need to be solved incredibly quickly. I thought that goal they basically got because Banjo pinched it for them, that got them back into the game. That was a moment where they could start grinding it back, but hey, they could still at the final minute mark as Lucky leaps in there and booms it into the back of the net.
We just love putting it into the poster bar here. Even if we do get the shot in, it's got to ricochet off of something here. 62 miles an hour. What is that KPH-wise? Is that... I think last time it was near 100 when it was in the 70s. So whatever that is, I can tell you it's a boomer at minimum. And with about a minute left here, there is still a chance. The big thing is I think we need to start being a little bit more effective with our shot placement, as well as try playing a little bit less risky. I think that a big thing Fact have done right now, Hyferia, is they've actually slowed down their pace of play. They're now allowing Major to kind of play into their hands and are just waiting for these opportunities where Major are overzealous and leave themselves exposed. And with about 40 seconds left, I don't know if they're going to find another one of those opportunities, but they don't need one. All they have to do is hold on for the last half minute and they will find their first win.
It's a very simple game plan, especially if you can extend it. Sacred, that is an absolute boomer, but Mads gets in the way of it, leaps in front of the cannonball. Now Mads can go down in the other end as well, has 3 players he needs to outplay. Banjo is backwards, but surely he's able to get a touch. Indeed it clears it out to the side, but it's not over just yet. Major, they're still pressing. They've only got 12 seconds to try and get another one back, and they have to do it in this attack. But it might already be too late. The 2-goal deficit will haunt them, and this incredibly slow start from Major comes back to bite them.
Yeah, unfortunately, the fact is they went down by 2 within about the first half a minute. Had they not gone down by 2, this would be a 2-2 ball game going into overtime right now. But they just allowed way too much of a deficit to start off this game and looked way too sloppy. It really goes to further emphasize that they did not seem to have much of an idea of what they were doing on defense when not only are they getting outshot by their opponents in a comparison of, I believe it was 7-8 here, but they also got outsaved. Fact Revolution also had an extra save over Major here, so it just kind of felt like they never really were able to grasp this game, really get a flow together, and they just kind of looked panicked throughout the game. So hopefully, if they go into game number 5 and they aren't necessarily, as panicked to start off, they should have a better chance here. But that's a big if right now, Hyferia. We still do look like we've got to take a deep breath and reset ourselves mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to have this come down to that sixth game because anything that was playing any kind of nerves that were tingling are surely going to be there massively. And oh, I kind of don't want to see it. I'm incredibly afraid, but at the same time, I do like Rocket League, so I would like that intensity. But as of right now, Major, they 100% are going to try their absolute hardest. And if they get off to a weak start once again, I want to see what they do.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is just how they're able to recover if they do not necessarily have a perfect start. I don't actually want to see them get into that position. I'd much prefer that they just score a goal out the gate. But hey, you can't control everything. And to be honest, if that's the result that we have here, I wouldn't be surprised. But 10 seconds in, and so far they have not conceded. And actually, matter of fact, they have a chance to go the other way. Magma centers this one. Where is Mads? Not really much of anywhere. Lackluster touch, and unfortunately, I think that's going to be the end of the offense.
That's seemingly the case. Magma wants to attempt another go to try and get it back into that attack, but that did not work out whatsoever. And it's still in the major box, or at least in their half, as Sacred has been putting in massive work. He scored the hat trick last game as well, but right now there's a little bit of space of Magma. He puts it on the backboard. Banjo gets an important second touch. The thing that I have with Major quite often is that they're trying to do too much at times. They go for an aerial, but instead to go for a 50, they want to go all the way, and thus they compromise their position a little bit. I would like to see them adapt, and I think I've said this pretty much every week. They are phenomenally mechanical, but they do need to switch it up more.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, and this is something we hinted upon in games 1 and 2 a lot as well, was a lot of solo plays that didn't really lead into much. This time, they're finally trying to use everybody on the team with the same issue as before. Listen, Hyferia, it's pretty heartbreaking, even when they're finally starting to do exactly what we said. Stop with the mechanical play. Start trying to go for some more team plays. Try to go for something a little bit more methodical, I guess is the best way to put it. And once they do that, they still run into inaccuracy issues. I feel so bad for the team here. They still are plagued by the fourth defender in the woodwork here. They've got 2 minutes gone on the clock, 3 minutes remain, so they do have time to work on that, but I do fear for them. If they continue to hit the post like this, eventually they're going to tilt themselves out of the game, and that is not a fun position to be in.
And that is obviously something that pretty much any Rocket League player has to deal with, the tilt going on, even though it's 0-0. If you feel like you're the better team in a series or in a game, Super wanting to prove me wrong completely and show that he's the best team purely by his lonesome. He's been pulling flip resets left, right, and center. But to get back on track, if you feel like you're the better team as Lucky, I won't even mention it. I'll do you a solid one, brother. I won't even mention that. Once again, if you feel like you're the better team, look, to me, I feel like I can't get... You know, you just take over. I can't get a story. This is way too much action.
Oh, no, I was about to say, is the action going to end in a lackluster goal like that? I'd be absolutely devastated. But to sort of further emphasize your point, I think I do know what you mean in saying when you think you're the better team, you go for some, let's say, more intricate shots, which leaves you exposed. We talk about this constantly on Cast Hyferia, and I really do think it's one of the most important things to mention whenever we get into a booth. The fundamentals are a fundamental for a reason. As much as people do try and, play a little bit revolutionary, play a little bit different than before, passing plays, solid rotations, and just normal shots are always going to be your best friend because sometimes you can overdo it and just leave yourself exposed.
It's a fact that revolutionary plays are, at times great, but they're revolutionary for a reason, and revolutions, looking at history, don't happen too often. Luckily, otherwise it'd be a whole lot going on. But right now, Major, they need to stick to the basics. They need to draw it back to what they're incredibly solid at, and that is the shooting. Their shooting has been impeccable and almost unstoppable by Factor Evolution. But Super, he's got some nice shots as well. This time it's Lucky in the way of it, though.
Yeah, they're getting nice shots, but again, it's the accuracy that we need to see. The power has been phenomenal. The fact that they are putting it into the woodwork is not a bad thing, but considering that they've had it ricochet out so many times, that's where the bigger issues come in. In addition to that, the defense still looks a little bit panicked, going for some passing plays that I don't think are that wise, because with only a minute left, we're down a golden goal scenario. The next team to score most likely will take the game, and oh, it could be Factor Evolution right now as they start off an offense, but no such luck. Now can Magma break out of the half and get something going for Major? No such luck, but if Mads can link up with Lucky, again, this is what I'm talking about. It doesn't seem like there's much foresight in the way that they are playing here. They're just either going for a booming clear to no man's land, or they're trying to possess it, and without really communicating that effectively with your teammates, Major is just leaving themselves exposed.
Absolutely, and going into these final 30 seconds, there will be that last game looming where they lost in overtime, and well, it could very well happen once again. Did they lose last time in overtime? I'm just straight up lying. That's a complete lie, but it doesn't really matter. Going into overtime is never fun. That's what I'm trying to get at. Super getting it out of there and using a Sacred as a tool to further that along as it lands into the box. Magma looking to pull off something revolutionary. It's a decent touch, but Sacred is right there. Mads got a touch. Magma once again lurking in the midfield. Lucky is there to send it right into the ceiling, but this will be an overtime. And Major, I do not want to see them drop it.
Yeah, this would be a big game for them. It's either A, they secure the win, or B, they allow their team, or excuse me, their opponents onto tie point. It wouldn't necessarily change the outcome here, as we've already secured the tie at minimum, but we don't really want the tie. I think we'd all agree we'd prefer a win, and someone explained to me how exactly Sacred demoed there. That doesn't make any sense. He was going basically 2 miles an hour at midfield and then got rammed from behind and blew up his opponent. So sure, that's apparently how that one works, Rocket League. 30 seconds in, and you guys are about to get punished for the fact that that demo made no sense, and Major should punish before because of it, but they don't. 40 seconds in, and what was a huge opportunity from an awkward defense is all but squandered.
Hey, Unreal Engine 5 coming soon, hopefully. Demos fixed, everything fixed. Rocket League, perfect game once again, but right now, Major, they've got to show a perfect game. Banjo, that's not perfect whatsoever. Mads nicely goes around, passes it into the center, and then Lucky is there to finish it off. A Major make it do work in the overtime. 54 seconds is all that it took, and, well, once again, a little bit of a fortunate pass by Banjo.
And here's the main thing, is that we finally took advantage of the lackluster defense there. A couple of errors here and there from the team, and eventually we found our opening, and we did not miss when it counted. And that's a big thing, is that for a lot of these times when we did get the offense together there, we just didn't seem to have that final punch, even when there was vulnerability. Now that the vulnerability showed itself one last time, we capitalize, and we do so in spectacular fashion, finishing off that overtime and giving us the 4-1 victory, meaning Hyferia, we are now 2-1-0 in the league. That is a huge start for us. Have not taken a loss yet, and yes, we did tie, but hey, against a team like we saw in last week, who I'm gonna have to remember who we saw, Nordavind last week. I mean, that's not a bad thing in any way, shape, or form. I'll take a tie against the top 4 and wins against the rest of them any day of the week.
Absolutely, yeah. I think as of right now, pretty much everything is going to come down to that last week and probably the week with Rotarian. But apart from that, the Major have seemingly got it locked up pretty nice and tight. But that being said, they were slipping. They were scrambling to try and stay on their feet here. And that's not something you like to see, especially when you won 3 games in a row, to then not start crumbling, but to start dropping pieces. That's a scary sight, especially for the players themselves. Will they have at least won this week once again?
Yeah, we'll take the win no matter what here. It might have been a little bit of a shaky game, but we were able to recover, and after giving up our one loss, we did not again. So congratulations to Major on a very good start to the season, and now Hyferia, it really does feel like the back half of the season is going to start to get pretty stacked. Like you said, we still got to run into Rotarian, we still got to run into AW3, and we still also have to play Must Do Fluck, another team that we had mentioned had been tying with a lot of teams recently and causing a lot of issues for a lot of the big dogs. So the question is whether or not we're going to be able to keep this momentum in our favor. I have faith faith in our team. I have faith that we will continue to go up and up and up from here on out. But the main thing is we need to keep up with this consistency. If we do leave openings and gaps like we did here today against teams like Rotarion and AW3, we're most likely going to get punished. But we've got some time to improve. We've got plenty more weeks here in this fantastic Telialigaen league. And honestly, Hyferia, it's been a blast so far, my friend. We're 3 weeks into this one. It's been incredible action all around, and I couldn't have asked for anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it's going well as well makes it a lot more fun, of course, for our side to be watching. If we continuously were on the other end of what we do to our opponents, we'd just be sitting here, yeah, no, we're just getting really unlucky and they're getting really unfortunate every single time because obviously we are going to cheer for Major, but oh, I've already highlighted it a little bit. 2 important matches, one against AW3. That will be the final week, and one against Rotarian. If we can win that one or tie it once again, we're setting ourselves up very nicely for that top 2 spot. And next week, it will be Major versus Rotarian. It's going to be a battle and a half, and you do not want to miss it. So I'd say grab some snacks, but you have plenty of time to do so because we will be back next week. Same time as we started today, and we hope to see you back then. Have a good one.